Hello guys, Miss Siders here, and I am really excited about a project that we're going to do this summer. I love when people read out loud to me. I love listening to podcasts, just being able to visualize the story as we go. And we're going to do something like that. We're going to do a video blog, a video podcast with the book Ivy and Bean, Break the Fossil Record. This is the third book in the Ivy and Bean series by Annie Barrows. And it's okay if you've read some of the books, and it's okay if you haven't. We're going to enjoy doing this book together. So before we get started today, I want us to ask some questions because good readers ask questions when they're reading. For example, if you've not read these books before, you might be wondering who is Ivy and who is Bean? How do the girls know each other? How long have they been friends? Do they go to the same school? You might also have noticed in the title, it says that Ivy and Bean break the fossil record. So a question I have is, what is the fossil record? Is it based on the type of fossil they find, where they find it, how big it is? What is the fossil record? Another question I have just from the title and the cover is, how do they break the fossil record? Do they do it with their class? Is it on a field trip? How are they going to break this record? And that is great that we have these questions just from the title and the cover, because before we even get started, we have questions we want to get the answers to. And the only way to get those answers is to read the story. So before we do that, we're going to look at two vocabulary words. One is the word mumbled, to say unclearly. Words that mean the same thing are mutter, murmur, talk under your breath. So maybe you've had to repeat something before because someone said that you mumbled and that they couldn't understand you. Another word that shows up in our story today is the word huddled, grouped together or standing closely. A lot of times we think about football teams or sports teams that huddle together to go over plays, but this word can also mean crowd, cluster, bunch, gather, or nestled. So a group of people that are close together. So be listening for both those words in our chapters today, mumbled and huddled. Some other things that are going to show up. These are some pictures from other things that you will hear in our chapters today. One, this is a Sphinx cat. You probably notice it doesn't have any fur. So if you've never seen a Sphinx cat before, you may have had a hard time visualizing what that would look like. But hopefully you have a picture now in your mind of a Sphinx cat. This up in the corner is a carpet viper, a very poisonous snake. We have a scorpion, and we have a fossil, and this is actually a fossil of an ichthyosaur. We also have a picture of a world records book. So just from these pictures that you see on this slide, you probably already have some predictions of things that are going to happen in our story, or you may even have some new questions, how all of these things are going to be connected. So the way that we get to those answers is we read our chapters. And today we are going to read chapters 1 and 2 of Ivy and Bean number 3. Chapter 1, Drop Everything. Boring, boring, boring. Bean turned her book upside down and tried to read it that way. Cool. Well, sort of cool. No, boring. Bean sighed and turned her book back right side up. It was a book about cats that she had picked from the school library. There was a different cat on each page. Bean liked cats, but reading about them was driving her crazy. All the cats looked the same except the Sphinx cat, who didn't have any fur. He looked halfway between a dog and a rat. Bean liked him the best. I bet Ivy's never seen a Sphinx cat, thought Bean. She knew she wasn't supposed to talk during Drop Everything and Read, so she poked Ivy in the ribs. Ivy's eyes were binging across the pages of her book. Bing, bing, bing. She looked like she was watching a ping pong game. She didn't even notice Bean. So Bean poked her again. Hey, she whispered. Earth to Ivy. Ivy mumbled. Looky here. It's a dog rat, Bean whispered louder. Ivy looked for a little tiny second. Oh, she said, and went back to reading. Bean sighed again. All the other kids in Miss Aruba Tate's second grade classroom were bent over their books. Even Eric, who usually fell out of his chair 2 or 3 times during Drop Everything and Read, was quiet. He had a book about man-eating sharks. McAdam was picking his nose. Bean raised her hand. Miss Aruba Tate didn't see because she was reading too. So Bean called out, "Miss Aruba Tate!" "Shh," whispered Miss Aruba Tate. "What is it, Bean?" "There's a problem, and it starts with M," began Bean, looking hard at McAdam, "and then N and P." She wiggled her finger next to her nose just in case Miss Aruba Tate needed an extra hint. Miss Aruba Tate looked at McAdam too. Then she put down her book and came over to Bean's table. "I brought this from home especially for you, Bean," she said, holding out a big, shiny book. "See," she pointed at the cover. "It's the Amazing Book of World Records. I think you'll like it." Bean wasn't sure. What's a world record? When someone does something better or longer or weirder than anyone else in the whole world, that means they've set a world record. Weirder? Bean asked. That sounded interesting. Ms. Aruba Tate smiled. "There's a man in here who walked on his hands for 870 miles. "You mean on his hands and knees, like a baby?" "No, just on his hands, with his feet in the air," said Miss Aruba Tate. "No way!" "Read the book, you'll see." Ms. Aruba Tate returned to her chair. Bean opened the shiny cover. On the very first page, there was a picture of a woman whose black hair trailed behind her like a fancy cape. Bean read that the hair was 19 feet long and that the woman had been growing it since she was 12. Wow, thought Bean. Doesn't it get dirt and bugs in it? Bean turned the page. Ew! A man was eating a scorpion. Double ew! He ate 30 scorpions a day. On the next page was a picture of a boy with 256 straws in his mouth. What does his mouth look like when there were no straws in it? Big and slobbery, Bean guessed. "Ivy," she whispered. "Ivy." Ivy's eyes stopped binging back and forth. "What?" "Check this out." Chapter 2. Carpet Vipers, Hula Hoops, and 2 Million Teeth. "He stuck 159 clothespins on his face," shouted Eric. "Look at him." It was recess, but instead of soccer or jump rope or monkey bars, the second graders were huddled under the play structure. At the center of the circle were Bean and her book. Kids pulled the book back and forth, all trying to look at the pages at the same time. "Look at her! 99 hula hoops at once," Vanessa squeaked. "Around her neck, too." "Look at this turnip. It weighs 39 pounds, said Doucette. "Gross. I hate turnips," Eric said. "My mom made me eat one once, and I spit it into the heater." "I hate lima beans," said Doucette. Bean pulled the book back in her direction. After all, Miss Aruba Tate had brought it especially for her. "This guy has had more broken bones than any living human," read Bean. In the picture, he was smiling. "He's broken his leg 14 times. "On purpose?" asked Emma. "I guess so," said Bean. "He jumps off of buildings." Drew slid the book his way. "Hey, this guy collects teeth. He has 2 million teeth." "This is the world's most poisonous snake," read Leo, pointing to another picture. "It's called the carpet viper." "Does it live in carpets?" asked Zuzu. She looked worried. "In India and Africa," said Leo. "Here." Bean slid the book back her way. "Look, Zuzu, this girl did 109 cartwheels in a row." "Let me see that." Zuzu grabbed the book and looked closely at the picture of a teenage girl in tights. "I bet I could do 110. "Bet you couldn't," said Eric. He grabbed the book from Zuzu and flipped through the pages. "This dude, he ate 400 M&Ms in 1 minute, it says. That's nothing. I bet I could eat 1,000 in 1 minute if I didn't chew." "You'd choke," warned Leo. "No, I've had lots of practice," said Eric. "Look," said Bean, reaching over Eric's shoulder and flipping pages. "Look at this kid. He's only a kid, and he made a world record for hanging spoons on his face. 15. No glue either." "How do they stick?" asked Ivy, looking up from her book. "I can't tell," Bean said. "Sweat, maybe?" Why would anyone hang spoons on their face? I don't know, but he made a world record. Bean looked at the picture. The kid was covered with spoons, but he still looked proud and happy because he had set a world record. I'm going to do 16 spoons, said Emma, staring at the picture. Hey, I was going to do 16, said Bean. She wanted to set a record and have her picture in the amazing book of world records. Spoons seemed pretty easy, and unlike some of the records, spoons didn't hurt. But now Emma had dibs. Dang. I'm going to eat 500 M&Ms in a minute, Eric said. Where are you going to get 500 M&Ms? asked Doucette. Eric thought for a moment. My uncle gave me a $10 for my birthday. My dad said I could spend it on anything I want. I'm going to do 111 cartwheels, said Zuzu, tucking her pink shirt into her pink pants and reclipping her hair. I'm going to see if Miss Aruba Tate has any spoons, said Emma. Emma and Zuzu walked off looking important. Bean felt left out. What could she do? She flipped through the pages until she came to a picture of a woman holding a broken glass. What? Was there a record for breaking the most glasses? No, the woman had broken it by singing in a really high voice. Ah, sang Bean, but softly. Ivy was still reading. What's that book about anyway? Asked Bean. When Ivy looked up, her eyes were shining. This girl, Mary Anning was her name. She found the first whole ichthyosaur fossil in the world. She was only 12 when she did it, too. She lived near the beach, and one day she saw a skeleton face in the cliffs, so she dug it out. It took her a long time, and everybody made fun of her, but she didn't care. And it was an ichthyosaur. Only nobody knew about dinosaurs then. She also found a plesiosaur and a pterodactyl. See? This is her. Ivy showed Bean a picture of a girl in a tall hat. She wasn't very pretty, but she was famous and important. Bean sighed. She was unfamous and unimportant. There had to be some way she could fix that. All right, that's where our 2 chapters end for today. Maybe you have some new questions. Maybe you have an idea of how we're going to answer some of those from the beginning. You may even have some ideas of a world record you want to try or a world record you want to learn about. So I look forward to reading the next couple chapters and seeing if we get any more answers about Bean and her plan to maybe break a world record or set one so that way she can be famous and important. Until next time, I hope you guys are having a great summer and working on your reading challenge, and we'll continue the chapters next time.